Hi, I'm Ian McGreevy. I'm the display garden designer here at 4-Star Greenhouse. I'm going to be walking you through how I design gardens here at 4-Star, how I pick out annuals, and I'll give you some tips and tricks that you can take from our gigantic landscape here at 4-Star and bring them back home to your smaller gardens in the backyard. So where I'm standing right now, this bed got a complete overhaul at the beginning of last season. And the first thing that we do before I even start thinking about annuals in a bed like this is figure out where I want like my hardscape. So like any paths, any stones, any really big things like trees, that should all come first when you're figuring out what you want to do at your house. You want to figure out the things that you never want to, have to touch again, like your hardscape, and then, plants like perennials, small shrubs, and things like that, that you can maybe change around every couple of years, but you generally don't want to think about too much. So this is a great example of just 3 little plants that you can put in just sort of like a tiny little nook. This could be great like against a house, next to a path, like in front of a fence, anywhere that you have just like, 1.5 feet or so of space. So we have 3 different plants here that'll all bloom at different times of the year. I've used Nyphophia, a red hot poker plant. We have some decorative allium, which will bloom a little bit later in the summer, and then some dwarf hydrangeas. These are just really low maintenance, easy plants to use, and they fit great into like a small area. So filling in just a tiny little space like this is super easy with just, a couple of little plants. So one of the most important things, especially if you have a smaller landscape, is knowing how big your plants are going to get. You don't want things to crowd each other necessarily, start growing in between each other. So for smaller landscapes, generally look for plants that have like mini or little or dwarf in their names. Like little quickfire hydrangea is like a perfect size for small landscapes. And then most herbaceous perennials like the allium and the red hot poker, daylilies, hostas, that kind of thing, don't get too big, and you can always divide them and move them pretty easily. If you have a bigger landscape, you can start looking into things like regular sized quickfire hydrangeas. Larger plants like that are good for filling in like really big spaces or being just like one impressive specimen plant. And then it's the sort of the same principle when you're picking annuals too. You always want to check and see how far things will spread, how tall things will be. You don't want to end up with like massive annuals that totally dwarf all of your other plants by accident. So in here, I mostly have sort of like medium height plants that aren't going to get too crazy big. All of my thrillers are only like, 2 to 2.5 feet tall, and all of my spillers are, only going to spread out to like 2 feet wide. So I know how big things are going to get. I know how much space I need to fill. And I don't have anything getting too crazy and getting too big and overgrowing my landscape. So when I get to picking annuals, the first thing I do is I pick 2 colors that I want to be like my theme. And I do this by bed because my beds are huge here. But in your smaller landscape at home, that can be your theme for your whole landscape. So like I pick like purple and white, and then I have some coral accents here. And you could say you want your landscape to be purple and white and have some coral accents, and do that same strategy at home. So that's in a nutshell the way that I pick plants for our enormous landscape here at 4-Star Greenhouse. Obviously not everybody is going to have as much space as we do here, so I hope this has given you some ideas for how to go to a large garden and sort of take what you like from somewhere and scale it down and bring it into your own backyard. Obviously the most important thing though at the end of the day is that you pick plants that you like and you plant your gardens in a way that makes you happy. But I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions or comments, you can just leave those below. And other than that, happy gardening.